Hey, Matt here, and welcome to another Mob Street video. Now in this video, I get to do a walk around and review of the new Harley Davidson Lowrider S. Not this bike right here. But while I was doing that review, I got to thinking, how much do motorcycle manufacturers really pay attention to the consumer or bring bikes out that the consumer really want? And while I was doing the walk around and the review of the Lowrider S, I think I answered that question. Let's get to the review. So, shout out to Timpanogos Harley for letting me come down and take a look at the bike and doing a walk around and doing a review on it. Check it out. Alright, so today we're down here at Timpanogos Harley Davidson, and I wanted to come down and show you one of Harley's new latest and greatest, the 2020 Lowrider S. If you take a close look at this bike, you can see that they got a lot of their styling cues from the 1980s, early 90s model Dynas. The full wrap down fender, the rear tail light back onto the fender instead of just the two turn signals. They got the shotgun exhaust, but what's really cool now is that they have the inverted forks. And if you're a sport bike guy looking at this going, whoop-de-doo, we've had inverted forks forever, Harley Davidson brought this out onto this cruiser, kind of aim it more towards the guys that are looking more for a performance bike. The rake has been brought back a few degrees also, which is now at 28 degrees, which is going to make this handling corners quite a bit easier. And it has the 114 cubic inch engine, which has 119 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPM. That's quite a bit, and it's just a whole bunch of fun. So there's a few things too to point out on this. With the new Softail frame, with the Lowrider S, they did go with the lower rear shock. Now, some of you might like it, some of you might not, but if you want to change that up a little bit, just get the Heritage fork, and it's going to raise that back seat up a little bit. Another thing that I really like about it, dual disc front brakes, 4 piston calipers on the front end, so it's going to have a pretty decent amount of bite. So as far as listening to the customer goes, or listening to the consumer, this is kind of reminiscent of the 80s and 90s model Dynas. Again, full wrap fender, not the bob fender like on the previous Lowrider S. Integrated rear tail light on the fender, not like the prior Lowrider S. The raised center console for your tach and your speedometer, totally reminiscent of the old Dynas. So the tank decal, Harley Davidson did an excellent job of listening and trying to pull that nostalgic feel back in. Another thing reminiscent of the old Dynas, mid controls. So the older one, the older Lowrider S had forward controls. Harley brought those back a little bit, so it's going to feel more like the old Dynas. To cater to those guys that are they're Dyna purists, and this is kind of paying homage to those that have helped create the Dyna to what it is today. Now obviously it's on the Softail frame, but I think they hit it out of the park with those. This is an excellent platform to build on. Now, Harley came out and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And some people might look at this and go, well, how come they didn't do the taller bar risers? How come they didn't do the different shock? How come they didn't do this? How come they didn't do that? Now, each one of us can nitpick and say, how come Harley didn't do this? Or how come they didn't do that? But Harley has some strict regulations that they have to follow. So the risers, legal in all 50 states. There's some states that don't allow the risers or the handlebars to be so much higher than the seat. Harley had to stick to that and comply with it. So this is what you get, but who's to say you can't put taller risers on there? Who's to say you can't put different bars on there? Who's to say you can't put a different seat, a different shock? The crazy thing is it is an excellent platform to start on, which kind of has that West Coast Dyna Club style motif going with it already. So the matte out black, I really dig the decal on the tank, which is reminiscent of the 80s style decals on the Dynas. So in all honesty, for 17 and some change for the Vivid Black and 18 and some change for the Barracuda Silver, it's a great platform to start on. Now, in all honesty, I think that this is going to give the Fat Bob a run for its money. The Fat Bob has been a more aggressive Dyna, which is now a soft tail. But just the stance of the Fat Bob, I mean, it's a really good looking aggressive bike. And weight for weight, there's only like 3 pounds difference in these things. Weight for weight, wheelbase is almost identical. But the one thing that I like about this, I think it's going to turn into the corners faster because it has that narrower front wheel. So if there's any questions or comments, leave those below. I go through those as often as possible, and I get a lot of good feedback out of them, whether it's good or bad. I take it for the good so that I can make these videos better. But I'm Matt, this is Mob Street. Come visit the people down here, the nice folks down here at Timp Harley. If you have any more questions about it, or put it in the comments below, I'll ask them for you. We'll call it good there. Thanks for watching.